Hey, it's Lee for On Your Marks Wrestling, and I'm here with a Wrestlemania review for April 8th, 2018. We start the night off on the kickoff show with an Andre the Giant Battle Royal. We have guest announcers JR and Jerry Lawler. Surprisingly, I don't know, I thought they could have probably given them a bigger match to do. I'm just going to go and say there weren't too many special moments in here. There's a little bit of a delete versus 10 chant moment. But other than that, the final three people were Baron Corbin, Mojo Rawley, and Matt Hardy. Corbin and Mojo had essentially formed a little bit of an alliance. They go to throw out Matt Hardy, and the lights go out. When the lights come back on, Bray Wyatt's in the ring. Wyatt eliminates... is it Corbin? No, he eliminates Mojo. Corbin gets eliminated by Matt Hardy. And then Wyatt and Matt Hardy hug. And so it kind of creates this alliance that a lot of us had been hoping for, I think, who watched the whole Ultimate Deletion thing. It's cool. It's about the best you can do with that kind of match. You forwarded at least one story. You also had John Cena in the audience, which was kind of something they were playing up. I wish he wasn't making dumb faces the whole time. Then we had Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali for the Cruiserweight Championship. I really wanted this to be on the main card. It frustrated me that it wasn't. Ali comes in with a cool LED mask. The match, not the best they've had. They've had a couple of better ones, but it was still pretty decent. It actually got really good about halfway through when Ali gets hit by a Spanish fly by Alexander. Then Ali hits a Spanish fly on Alexander from the top rope for a near fall. There's a spot where Ali's going for an 054, which is a 450 splash, where Alexander knocks him off the apron, or off the ropes, excuse me. And then I get a little angry at this part because they decide to show us a preview of Wrestlemania, of the Ronda Rousey match, instead of just keeping on this match while there's the most emotional part of the match where Ali is basically saying, like, please don't hit me right now. And Alexander just says, no, I'm going to hit you. And just hits him and attacks him kind of violently, showing that there's like no friends in this match. He just wants to win. Ali does a reverse Frankensteiner on Alexander at one point. It looks brutal. He does an 054 and he lands it. It's a great move. But Alexander gets his foot on the rope. It's the first time that you see that, I believe. Then there's an 054 that misses. Alexander hits 3 back elbows. And then he does the whole, like, why don't you just quit thing? I don't want to keep hurting you. And Ali just kind of keeps grabbing at him. So he says, okay, I'm going to hit the lumbar check. And he does. And he gets the win. At the end of the match, he hugs Ali right away. And he's just a crying champion who's just so happy. Alexander has that kind of persona. He was the right choice. I understand that he was the choice to win. I wanted Ali to win. I think Ali would just kind of fit a cooler narrative. I think he's a little bit better on the mic. But it makes sense that Alexander wins. He's been so close so often. Then we get the Women's Battle Royal. First time ever. Beth Phoenix is in as a special commentator. As is Paige. But they don't announce her. And then Michael Cole kind of throws her under the bus in a weird way. Almost like looks like he trolls her, but I don't think it was intentional. Basically he says, like, we know that Paige is injured this year. And then Paige is essentially stuck saying, yeah, we'll see next year if I can do it, even though most people know that she's essentially been banned from wrestling for WWE. At least that's what the rumors are. So it felt weird. I wrote that Becky Lynch gets a legit entrance. Then there's a bunch of jobber entrances. And then you have Sasha and Bayley who also get legit entrances. So they're your favorites. There are also a bunch of NXTers there. You've got Bianca Belair, Iconic Duo, Kairi Sane, Dakota Kai, a Brazilian girl, I think her name is Conti, and then there's an Indian girl whose name I don't know, but she's bigger than most of the competitors there. Early on, NXT dominates, and I thought that was kind of a cool thing, and they just kind of joined together. Belair hits a 450 splash, which is not a move that you see women hit very often. I think Bianca Belair is a future star. If you haven't watched NXT catch her matches, she uses her hair as a whip too. She did it in this match once. It's cool. Again, I get angry here because WWE finds it more important to show me a commercial with dolls, like wrestling figurines, rather than Kairi Sane's insane elbow, which is maybe the best move in women's wrestling. And then we also learned that she's been eliminated. I wrote that Becky Lynch was eliminated surprisingly early from this match. The final kind of group is the Riot Squad along with Natalya versus Bayley and Sasha Banks. Bayley and Sasha Banks essentially team up to eliminate all of them. And then Sasha goes for a handshake with Bayley. Bayley shakes her hand but actually throws Sasha out, starts celebrating her win. But then we learned that there was one person who wasn't eliminated. It was Naomi. Bayley tries to attack Naomi. She gets rear-viewed and then she gets eliminated. So Naomi actually wins this Battle Royal. I was okay with the result. Bayley kind of failing to be the bad guy her first time trying is cool. You can kind of build a narrative around it. So we'll move on to the main show. So this show is already starting to feel long, and we haven't even hit the main show yet. So then we get America the Beautiful, sung by two nobodies. But they do a better job than Aretha Franklin did back in the day, so that's cool. Then there's a quick video package of New Orleans, WrestleManias in the past. I wrote that the set looks amazing. Thought it really looked good. And I'm looking forward to never hearing the Down to New Orleans song. I hate it so much. We start the night off with Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, and The Miz. The intro is Rollins has blue eyes, kind of like a White Walker from Game of Thrones. Miz sends the Miztourage to the back, so they're kind of playing up the he's a new man kind of thing. Then there's no demon entrance for Finn Balor, but he does have the LGBTQ community from New Orleans kind of backing him up. I was cool with that. I like the demon entrance, but if I'm not getting that, just do something good. There's a bunch of spots here. Nothing really stood out as especially great, but it's all pretty good. I thought a 1916 hit by Balor onto Rollins for a near fall was good. There was a spot with Miz having Balor in the figure four, but eating a frog splash, which was pretty good. At the end of this match, basically has a skull-crushing finale from the top rope or second rope, which lands on Rollins. Balor breaks it up with a double stomp, essentially coup de grace, but to the back. Then there's a coup de grace on Miz, and then Rollins breaks up that pin by stomping Balor into Miz, and then he stomps Miz for the win. Makes sense. I believe Miz probably wants to spend time with his family, and Rollins is a decent champion. I honestly think Balor is above this match right now. He's very over. Then we get the Charlotte versus Asuka match. The more I thought about it, the more I said, like, you know, the only thing you can't do here is have Charlotte win. You have to have Asuka win and then have Charlotte chase her. That's the right thing to do, in my opinion. There's a cool extended lead up for Charlotte, the slowed down version of her song. She's wearing some gold clothes. It looks cool. There's a hip attack to the outside that sends Charlotte into the barricade. She hurts her arm. It becomes a kind of running theme. Charlotte does a moonsault, but is caught in a triangle by Asuka. It was a cool transition. Asuka eventually suplexes Charlotte from the apron to the floor. That's a cool move. It's the second time we saw it or something like it recently, and it always works. There's a second/third rope Spanish fly. We saw one with the cruiserweights, and then we see it with the women. That's neat. Charlotte attempts a natural selection, and again, she's put into a submission. This one's different, but it looks cool. Then Charlotte hits a really big spear for a near fall, and she gets Asuka in the figure eight, and Asuka taps out. And the cool thing about that figure eight is she was doing the arch with only one arm because she's still selling the arm. It was a good match. Wrestling was really good. I think it was the wrong result. I don't see how anything you're going to do with this is going to be any better than Charlotte chasing Asuka and eventually beating her at some other event, maybe SummerSlam. Then a ref runs down to Cena and tells him something, and Cena runs up the ramp. So you have to think, oh, maybe he has a match with Undertaker. You get the U.S. title match between Bobby Roode, Rusev, Orton, and Mahal. Aiden English does a cool intro for Rusev. Some of the memorable spots here, everybody kind of hit their medium move, like their second biggest move. Orton eventually hits an RKO on English. He was trying to get Rusev in it, but English tried to protect, so he hits it on English, and he hits it on Mahal, then he hits it on Rusev, but then he gets hit by a DDT, glorious DDT from Bobby Roode. Rusev is eventually kind of gets the upper hand. He's standing tall in the ring with Mahal. He's going to probably put him in the clutch, and then the crowd is going nuts for this. But then Sunil Singh jumps up, distracts Rusev. Rusev kicks him, but Mahal grabs him in the Kalash, hits him with Kalash, wins the match. Crowd was not happy with this. To me, this was the second best result you could have in this match. I think Rusev winning was obviously the better choice. But I thought if you weren't going to put it on him, Rude's had it. He didn't do all that much with it. He's better at chasing. Orton had it, did nothing, but you gave him the Grand Slam, so at least got that out of the way. But to me, Mahal, he's kind of been the glue guy in that feud right now. And as much as I don't care, he's probably an okay guy to flip it within a day or a week. I think he's going to be a transitional champion at best. I think ideally it goes to Rusev tomorrow. Then we get the Triple H versus and Stephanie versus Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle. I wrote a bunch of notes. I'm going to try to skip some of them because I know this can go long. There's a motorcade entrance for Triple H with hot chicks on motorcycles and him and Stephanie on trikes. Ronda Rousey comes in. She's got her gear now. She has a little hot rod t-shirt or short cutoff shirt, and she's got a kilt that she takes off when she starts wrestling. That's all right. It's decent gear. There's a spot where Triple H almost hits Stephanie. Then there's a spot where Kurt Angle goes to tag Rousey, and she gets yanked off the mat by Stephanie and bangs her head into the mat. Rousey's taking a lot of head bumps that seem like they're legit head bumps. It's very, very strange. What's going on with my hair here? This match is all about Stephanie trying to cheat and do anything to win, and Rousey really wanting to get her hands on her. Eventually, Rousey does get into the match. She clotheslines Stephanie and rolls through instead of doing other moves. It looks cool. There's an attempted armbar that Stephanie defends. That's kind of a running thing. It's the only thing Stephanie really does this match is defend the armbar and cheat, which I'm okay with. It's fine. So Rousey hits her at one point, hits her finishing move, which I believe it's her finishing move, which is essentially like a spinning Samoan drop, almost F5 type thing, or almost suplex. It's hard to describe. She's going to have the pin, but Triple H yanks the ref out of the ring, then yanks Rousey out of the ring. So you're seeing that he's cheating. Then, Angle gets thrown onto an announcer table, so he's kind of out of the picture. Triple H is in the ring. Rousey jumps in the ring, says she wants to fight him. Ref says, we can't let that happen. Triple H talks to him and says, we're going to allow this to happen. Rousey gets the best of him, picks him up for her finisher, but Stephanie comes in and kind of yanks him down. Then we get Rousey tries to pick up Stephanie and kind of throw her into something, but Stephanie pushes her into the ring post. Again, it looks kind of brutal. Triple H and Angle eventually end up in the ring, and they're trying each other's finishing moves. Neither is hitting it. They're all countering it, but eventually Angle does hit the Angle Slam for a near fall. Then Stephanie yells at Angle, and he grabs her ankle and puts the ankle lock on her. Angle does get pedigreed, though. Rousey breaks up the pin. Her timing was actually very good on this. Triple H tries to pedigree or powerbomb Rousey, but she turns it into Rana and armbar. It was a really cool transition. Stephanie saves, but is put into an armbar herself, while Angle gets an ankle lock on Triple H. Triple H somehow Angle gets flung into Rousey, breaks things up. Angle gets cut up on that one over his eye. Then there's a double pedigree kind of teased by Triple H and Stephanie, but both of the good guys get out of it. Rousey ends up kind of doing a backdrop, but Stephanie does a sunset flip, but it turns into an armbar, and Rousey gets the win by the armbar. This match went a little long. That's true. But it turned out to be way, way better than you would ever expect. Rousey, I thought, like if I'm giving a grade just to Rousey, I thought she was like a B plus, maybe an A minus on this, and I thought Stephanie might have been even better. Stephanie was actually kind of really good with most of these moves. Then we had a tag team match, the tag team match for the SmackDown Championship. It's New Day versus the Usos versus the Bludgeon Brothers. This was probably the shortest match of the night. You have New Day with the intro. They bring in little people dressed as pancakes. I hated it. I'm not normally that guy who hates all these like social justice things, but I hated this one. Harper and Rowan dominate pretty much the whole beginning of the match. Eventually, the Usos get a nice little run where they're super kicking a lot and stuff like that. They get a near fall on Harper, actually, after super kicks and a splash. Then there's a Tower of Doom spot that's kind of teased, but thankfully, because they do it all the time, and I don't really like it that much, Rowan jumps in and kind of knocks the Usos out, so they're no longer part of the picture. And then at that time, Harper was on the second rope. Harper grabs a full Nelson on Kofi, picks him up, and Harper, I should have said Rowan. Harper does a sit-out powerbomb from the second rope, which is their finisher, and it looked really good, and they get the win that way. So the Bludgeon Brothers are the new champions. I wanted this to happen. I would have probably liked a longer match, but whatever. This is a long enough show. I'm already exhausted talking about it. Then we get John Cena, who comes out. He's expecting The Undertaker to come out, but instead it's Elias. Elias sings his song. Cena kind of says, no, I don't care about this, goes back into the crowd. But Elias says enough stuff to kind of draw Cena out. Cena goes in and just beats him up. Hate that. I want Elias to be kind of a player, and in this, he just looked like a jobber. Cena starts walking up the ramp, and then the lights go out, and the crowd goes nuts. And in the middle of the ring is The Undertaker's gear from last year. Lightning hits it. It disappears. And then The Undertaker's music comes on, and he pops out of the ground. And he kind of walks up, and they have their match. And thank the Lord, it was a squash match. Basically, The Undertaker just dominates Cena. Cena acts scared the whole time. Undertaker wins. It was the only way I was going to accept this match. If it was in any way competitive, I would have been frustrated. If it had Cena going over, I would have been frustrated. The fact that it was a squash match, fine, whatever. Hall of Fame inductees come out. They wave to the crowd. That's done. Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan versus Zayn and Owens is next. Bryan gets a yes movement as an epidemic kind of intro thing. It was cool. Owens' music comes on. And both Owens and Zayn attack from the back right away. Bryan is essentially incapacitated after a haluva kick, and a power bomb onto the apron. McMahon goes at it alone. He does all right for himself, but eventually his stomach comes into play. Owens and Zayn attack the stomach a ton. Eventually, they hit a frog splash, and Bryan, who's been looked at by the medical staff forever, jumps in, breaks up the pin, becomes a player in the match. Excuse me. He shows good fire. At one point, he kind of sells a head injury, but then he does a nip up out of it just to kind of trick the crowd. And then Bryan goes kind of through his greatest hits. He did eat a couple finishers from Owens and Zayn and kicked out of both of them. But eventually he hits his yes kicks on Zayn. He hits a flying knee or running knee. And then he hits the yes lock, and they win. So now Zayn and Owens are definitely not going to be on SmackDown, but they're probably going to be on Raw. Then we have Nia and Alexa, and I wrote a note here that I said this match was booked perfectly. It wasn't the best match, but it was booked perfectly. So Alexa comes out, and she's on a pedestal, and they kind of lower her to her for her entrance. I thought that was cool. I wrote that they gave Nia a more revealing outfit, and I thought that was cool. They're talking about, being bigger is fine. It's a normal thing, and Nia's a beautiful woman. Why not show a little bit more of her? Why not dress her up a little bit more like the other divas? And I liked it. Nia, I love this beginning. Nia basically attacks Mickey and just destroys Mickey right from the get-go so that she won't be a factor in the match later on. And you clearly knew that was Alexa's plan, and Alexa looks super scared at that. So Alexa almost tries to run away, and Nia catches her. And they have a match, and Nia is just dominant. And Alexa, it's booked correctly. Alexa can't win a straight-up match, so she cheats. She does a thumb to the eye. She attacks the eyes multiple times, and when she's not attacking the eyes, she's attacking the legs, and it makes sense. At one point, Bliss does do a Twisted Bliss onto Nia on the outside. Looked perfect. I really like that move. Nia, excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. Expensive water. All right. Yeah, at one point, Nia essentially kind of gains the advantage, is going to do her finisher, but again, gets attacked to the eyes. It's a bunch of attacks to the eyes. Ultimately, Nia does end up with Bliss on her shoulders, climbs up to the second rope and does a second rope Samoan drop. It looked absolutely perfect. It was a great finish. She gets the pin. Crowd goes nuts. Crowd was actually very happy for Nia. I liked it a lot. Nia was crying. Perfect. Then we get the match that I think most people were looking forward to for this WrestleMania. It's Nakamura versus AJ Styles. Nakamura gets Alice Cooper's guitarist to do the intro along with some what looks like student violinists. AJ just has a no-nonsense approach. It's very physical early, but the match takes a while to pick up. Eventually, we get AJ with a kind of leg kick on Nakamura and inside leg kick and a calf crusher, so now Nakamura has a leg injury for most of the match. AJ has a bit of back issues. There's a bunch of kind of back and forth things. There's a phenomenal forearm attempt that where AJ's just kind of shoved. AJ tries a 450 and lands on the knees. Nakamura tries to pin him, but gets a near fall. Then we get a Pele kick and a knee from Nakamura to the back of AJ's head for a near fall. The final part of this match was a really cool sequence. You had a Kinshasa attempted, but AJ kind of catches him and rolls him over and picks him up into a Styles Clash, all in like one really smooth motion, and hits the Styles Clash for the win. Then there's hugs and kind of respect shown, and Nakamura goes on one knee to present the belt to AJ. AJ takes the belt, and Nakamura low blows him, and then starts kicking him a bunch, and kicks him out of the ring, and then he Kinshasas him on the outside, so Nakamura goes heel. You get a heel turn in a pretty big match. If you weren't putting Nakamura over, I think this was the second best thing you could do. Perfect. Then you have the Bar versus Braun Strowman, and the Bar comes out in a little float. Strowman destroys the float, and then Strowman starts walking through the crowd to find his partner, saying, "It's one of you guys." And he just walks through the crowd and picks this 10-year-old kid or so and brings him up to the ring and says, "You're going to be my partner. Just stay there and don't do anything." The match, Strowman actually takes a lot of damage in this match. And then he tags in the kid. Kid walks in, and then he just kind of turns back to Strowman, tags him back in. Strowman ends up picking up Cesaro, hitting him with a power slam, and getting the win. So now Strowman and some 10-year-old kid called Nicholas are the tag team champions for Raw. It was stupid, but it was in the death spot, and it worked fine. Then we have Reigns versus Lesnar, and you knew this wasn't going to be a strong ending to a show. There's really nothing special about this match for the beginning part. Then we get into a finisher kickout sequence. So I'm going to get to Roman spears Lesnar onto an announcer table. 2 spears for a near fall. Then there's a knee to the face and an F5 by Lesnar for a near fall. Another F5 for a near fall. Another F5 for a near fall. An F5 onto a table. An F5 again. Near fall. Roman blades and gets elbowed by Lesnar, and it opens him up, and he bleeds a ton. Roman hits 2 spears on Lesnar, gets a near fall. He goes for another spear, and Lesnar catches him, puts him in an F5, and hits it, and wins. So at least Lesnar wins. The crowd didn't hate it as much as they could have if Romans would have won. But the crowd was not happy either way. We get to suffer one last time through that Down to New Orleans song as part of a big video package. That's fine. We come back and we just see Roman Reigns after being worked on by doctors and stuff, kind of talking to his family and walking up the ramp, kind of as a broken man. Essentially, kind of turns around. The crowd's still not cheering him on. They're still kind of not caring for him. Yeah, that last match was rough. It was not very good. It ended on a really sour. I don't know why you don't do the heel turn to finish WrestleMania, or I don't know why you don't find some other match to put on there, like the women's match or something like that. This just ended in a really kind of dud type of way. The whole show was a little bit disappointing. I actually thought, and some people would probably argue with this, but I actually thought the Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, Ronda Rousey match might have been the best thing on here, at least in terms of a compelling match. It wasn't the best wrestling, but it was more compelling storyline wise. So, yeah, not the best show, especially after NXT being so amazing. I would give this a probably 5.5 out of 10, maybe a 6 out of 10. Maybe I'll sleep on it and feel better about it, but it was a disappointing show overall. It was nice to see Daniel Bryan get the win at least. There was a couple moments that were good, but I found that a lot of the decisions felt wrong to me in terms of who won the matches, especially in the face versus face matches. I think those were the matches where they picked the wrong winner in most cases. All right, thanks for watching this. This was a long day of wrestling. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I tried to watch Supercard of Honor today, and for some reason the app's not playing for me. So at least that was a bit of a reprieve because this show was 7+ hours. Anybody who sat through it, good job. I'm proud of you. And again, we're going to have another... I think Rob's going to have a review of this as well. And tomorrow we're going to review Raw. Hopefully this is Raw after WrestleMania is always a lot of fun. So I'm hoping there's some debuts and other stuff. All right. Thanks for watching.